everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea. Thank you so much for joining me for another behind the scenes look as I do some prep work for the weekend soap. This weekend I am going to do a beer soap because I want one available for the men for Christmas time. And today what we're going to go and do is make some soap dough bubbles to go in there, and I'm also going to show you how I prep the beer ready to put in as part of my lye water. Let's go. So to do our soap dough today, I am going to be using the heat transfer method. That means in my pot here, I have all of my hard butters and oils, though my coconut oil is starting to get quite soft because we are now well and truly into spring with a day of about 30-32 degrees. In here is my distilled water and sodium hydroxide solution, and this is still hot. It's only just finished dissolving and has become clear. And I'm going to pour this straight into my oils here, and then I'm going to let the heat of this dissolve those before we come back and we add in our soft oils. Now that has actually finished dissolving in there, it's time to add in our soft oil. So I have brought my scale in to do that. First one I am adding in is my olive oil. You will find my recipe down below in the description box. When I'm using soap dough in the way I'm going to be using it in this particular soap, I use my same recipe. Almost where I need to be. Now I get a lot of questions about my scales, and one of the top questions is what brand is my scale? Alright, and my scale actually doesn't have a particular brand. It's there's nothing that I've ever seen on any of the packaging. Now usually I'm going to add some castor oil next. Normally I would have purchased my scales from off of eBay, but in a recent video I said how much I just had an absolute gut full of using eBay, and I decided to buy my next set from off of Amazon Australia, and I am so pleased that I did. This would have to be the best set of scales I have ever ordered in like the 6 or 7 years that I've been ordering this style of scale. It tears out every time. It actually tears to zero, whereas a lot of the other scales they tear to like -1 or 1. This one actually goes to 0 every time. It's very, very accurate, and as you can see I don't have my power lead in it. This is one of the first, or it is the first set of scales I've ordered like this that actually does not need the power cord, and their backup battery will work. Every other time that I've ordered scales like this, I've always had to have them plugged into the mains to get them to work. So I am so super happy that this one actually works without being plugged in. So I have left a link down below for the place that I bought these from. I ordered these on a Saturday afternoon, and it said I'd get them on the Wednesday, and I actually got them on the Tuesday, so I was so super impressed with them. The other thing I've noticed with these scales, quite often when I've had these, they won't actually register a weight until you've got to like 5 grams. This one will actually register it as soon as it hits 1 gram, which is excellent. Now I've just actually added in my fragrance oil now because all of this soap is going to go into my main batter. I'm just going to move these scales out of the way. I am also going to add my colour into this right now as well. The first colour I'm going to put in is a bit of Grandeur Mica, so we'll put a little bit of that one in. And I do want just a little bit of sparkle in this, but not too much because this is going to be predominantly for the men. So I'm going to put in a little bit of Extravagant as well. Alright, let's get the spatula out, and then we're going to bring in the kitchen blender, and then I'm going to mix this up until it comes to trace. This isn't a particularly powerful stick blender that I've got here, and I really actually don't like the bottom of this one. The actual blades aren't very big for mixing up the bigger batches. I do actually reserve this mixer for my small sort of batches of soap that I do, but I can already get a sense that this fragrance oil is very well behaving. It's just not getting any thicker the more I blend it. So I'm just going to have to leave it like that. Usually if I'm just pouring soap dough, I try and bring this up a little bit thicker, because then I find I'm less likely to get soda ash on the top of my soap while it's sitting there. And that soda ash can really interfere when you're trying to use your soap as soap dough. So make sure all of that's in. I'm going to just grab my mold here. Now this particular mold that I'm going to use today, this is one of those cheap molds that you usually find over on eBay, where you get that little purple liner or blue liner. What I've done is I've actually just taken the wooden part and I've lined it with some freezer paper, and that is so that I can pour my soap in and then get it out of the mold easier. With my soap dough, because you want soap dough to be pliable, you don't leave it in the mold for too long. And I just find occasionally trying to get it out of the silicone liners, it's just really messy. It doesn't matter that the soap doesn't look pretty when you get it out, but it does get a little bit messy. So I try and pour my soap dough into paper liners when I'm doing it, just to make it easier to unmold. Okay, so this one I've actually left it sitting for a couple of days in here, and it is now ready to unmold and do the next bit. So let's get that out of the paper. It actually smells really good as well. I'm so excited to be using this fragrance, because it has got that sort of hoppy smell to it that beer has, but it also has this real nice fruity smell. What I'm going to do with this is just roll myself a whole lot of little balls to go into the next soap. In fact, I may even want them smaller than that. So this is going to take me a little while to do, but I think it's going to be well worth it in the end. So I'm going to get to rolling these out. Looks more like a Hershey's Kiss than a ball. I think these gloves are going to be in the way, so what I'm going to do is take them off. I have got some rubbing alcohol here, so I'm just going to give my hand a really good spray with that. Get that all rubbed in, make sure that they are nice and clean. Alright, so that's that done. Let's grab this piece again and actually get that into a ball shape. It's looking better. I think those gloves were just actually making it into that sort of more teardrop shape, and I really want these to be round. So let's get that one done, and I'm going to continue making up all these little balls. So we have got all of these now rolled out. I am just going to gather them up and pop them in here. The reason I don't put them straight into the bowl is that sort of few minutes while I'm rolling those ones out just gives them a chance just to dry out a little bit, and they don't then stick to each other in the bowl. So let's finish getting these in here. So when you see the bubbles rise up in beer, they're usually the same colour as the actual beer, but they have like a little white coating on them. Or that's what the bubbles look like, so we can actually see them. So what I'm going to do is I've just put in some Blizzard synthetic mica, and I'm just going to roll them around until they are nicely coated. Okay, so they are now nicely coated and they are ready to go into the soap. Next thing I need to do is go and prepare the beer ready for the lye water. So to make a truly authentic beer soap, I am going to put some beer in here. So not only is this a little bit of label appeal to attract the men to this particular bar of soap, the other reasons you may want to add things like beer into your soap is because of that sugar content that's in it. And that sugar content will increase the lather of your soap. So I'm actually just going to pour this full bottle in here. It's 355 ml or 12 fluid ounces. And what I'm going to do is leave this sit here for a couple of hours just to go flat. And then we're going to come back and we are going to boil it up to get rid of the alcohol, because you do not want the alcohol in here when you are making your soap. Okay, so it's been several hours now and my beer is looking well and truly flat. So what I'm now going to do is bring it up to the boil, and once it comes up to a rolling boil, I'm then going to let this simmer for about 20 minutes, and that is just to boil out any of the alcohol. Okay, so now that this has finished its little simmer there, hopefully all of that alcohol is now actually burned out of there, and I will leave this one to sit and cool, and we'll finish off doing the lye water. Okay, so the beer has now cooled right down, all the bubbles have gone, and hopefully all that alcohol has gone out of this one as well. So I'm just going to pop my jug onto my scale here. We'll tear it out, and I'm going to see how much of the actual beer we have been left with, because some of that would have evaporated during that boiling process. Okay, so that's, we'll call that 150 grams. It's at 152.7, but I'm going to call that 150 grams. Even though I have SoapMaker 3 to do all my calculations, I still like to use the Soap Calc printouts to work from off of, because they are just so simple and clean to read. Based on the oils and the water percentages that I'm using in this soap, it's telling me that I need 480 grams worth of water or liquid to complete doing this soap. Now, whenever I work out when I'm using water and another liquid, so in this case beer, I generally take this water amount and I divide it by half, and that comes down to 240 grams. I did up that a little bit, and I turned that into 250 grams to melt my lye into. So if we slide down the page a little bit here, you can see that my water for the lye I wrote down as 250 grams. I made a quick note here so I didn't forget that I had 150 grams of beer. So 250 plus 150 grams makes 400 grams, but we want 480. So I know I need another 80 grams of extra water to actually complete this soap. So now that I've got all of this worked out, I actually did make up my lye solution earlier so that it is nice and cool, ready for soaping. And this has got the 250 grams water and the 214 grams of sodium hydroxide. I will measure out the extra 80 grams of water when it comes time to making the soap and add that directly into my oils. And you'll see me do that on the weekend's video. So I hope you have enjoyed watching those little bits of behind the scene as I get ready to make my next soap, my next beer soap. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. If you've got any questions, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And until the weekend's video, I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you then. Bye.